Welcome back to Silent Archives. We like to think our world is too big to fail. But 3,000 years ago, the most advanced empires on Earth didn't just fall. They were deleted from history in a single generation. One day, global trade, writing, and technology were at their peak. The next, complete absolute silence. This is the story of the Bronze Age blackout, a systemic glitch that nearly ended the human race. Prepare yourself. This is what happens when a global system finally reaches its breaking point.
Imagine waking up and the world is simply gone. No ships in the harbor. No messages from the capital. The sophisticated cloud of the Bronze Age has just crashed. In 1177 BC, the most advanced empires on Earth didn't just fall, they were deleted. This wasn't a war. It was a total systemic failure. Before the fall, the world was more like ours than you'd think. From Egypt to Greece, empires were synced. They traded gold, ivory, and a toxic necessity called tin. They had massive bureaucracies, international treaties, and high-speed diplomatic couriers. They thought they were invincible. They were wrong. The Bronze Age ran on a toxic catalyst. To make bronze, you need copper and tin. Copper was everywhere, but tin? Tin was the oil of the ancient world, found only in remote mines thousands of miles away. If the tin stopped flowing, the machines of war stopped working. The entire global economy was a house of cards. Then, the Earth turned toxic. Scientists studying ancient pollen have found evidence of a 300-year mega-drought. The breadbaskets of the world turned into dust bowls. Empires that could feed millions suddenly couldn't feed a village. Hunger doesn't just kill people. It kills the idea of order. Out of the green fog of the Mediterranean came this systemic glitch. History calls them the Sea Peoples. They weren't an army. They were a desperate, starving migration of refugees and raiders. They didn't want to rule the empires. They wanted to eat them. And they arrived exactly when the walls were weakest. In the city of Pylos, we found clay tablets baked hard by the fires that destroyed the palace. The final messages are terrifying. They describe watchers at the sea and frantic orders to send every soldier to the coast. The tablets in mid-sentence. The blackout had reached the heart of Greece. In central Turkey, the Hittite Empire, a superpower that once rivaled Egypt, simply vanished. Archaeologists found their capital, Hattusa, completely empty. There were no bodies in the streets. It was as if an entire civilization of hundreds of thousands just walked away into the forest, leaving their gold and gods behind to be reclaimed by the dust. Think of the Bronze Age trade routes as the fiber optic cables of the ancient world. When the Sea Peoples burned the port city of Ugarit, the server went down. A letter found in the ruins, never sent, begged for help. The enemy ships are here, my cities are burned, and evil is done. The message was baked into clay by the very fire that killed the sender. Egypt was the only one to survive, but only barely. Ramses III met the Sea Peoples at the Battle of the Delta. He turned the Nile into a trap, using archers to rain death from the banks.
Forward! Through the storm! Arrows mean nothing! We press on!
Egypt won the war, but the cost was their soul. They were so bankrupted by the defense that they never truly recovered. The superpower was now a shell. This is the most terrifying part, the great forgetting. When the palaces burned, the scribes died. Within 2 generations, humanity forgot how to read and write. Linear B script vanished. Hieroglyphics became a mystery. For 300 years, the human race lived in total literacy blackout. We became a species with a collective case of amnesia. Out of this toxic reset came a new, grittier technology, iron. Bronze was for kings and globalists. Iron was for the survivors. Iron was everywhere. It was the open source metal of the Dark Ages. It was harder, meaner, and it didn't require a global trade network. The world was no longer golden. It was gray and sharp. For 3 centuries, the population of Greece dropped by 90%. Cities were replaced by small, frightened villages hiding in the mountains. This wasn't just a change in government. It was a biological collapse. The climate had stayed toxic to farming for so long that the very idea of a city became a myth told by grandmothers. Because people couldn't write, they started to sing. This is where the stories of the Trojan War and the Odyssey come from. They weren't history books. They were distorted memories of the golden age that existed before the Blackout. Achilles and Hector are the ghosts of a world that uninstalled itself. The 1177 BC Blackout is a mirror. Those empires were interconnected, specialized, and too big to fail, just like us. They relied on a single resource, tin, just like we rely on microchips and oil. When one gear in the machine jammed, the whole world ground to a halt. The Blackout wasn't an accident, it was a design flaw. But every reset leads to a new version. From the ruins of the Bronze Age came the Greeks, the Romans, and eventually, us. We are the children of the Blackout. But we carry a warning in our DNA. The system only works as long as the trade flows. If the tin stops tomorrow, how long until we forget how to read? We found a mass grave in the ruins of a burned palace. The victims weren't killed by swords. They were found huddled together, clutching small bags of grain. They didn't die in battle. They died waiting for a world that was never coming back. The archive is full of people who thought tomorrow was a guarantee. Don't make the same mistake.
1177 BC isn't just a date in a textbook, it's a warning. The more connected we are, the faster we fall. Was it a climate disaster, a war, or just a system that got too big for its own good? Maybe it was all of it. If you enjoyed this trip into the Dark Ages, hit that subscribe button. The archive is growing every day. Check out my video on the Toxic Queen if you want more stories of power and poison. Stay curious. I'll see you in the next deep dive. Until then, stay toxic.